Hi, this is Rick, K1 Delta Sierra. I've been a rover for a number of years, and uh, we are now living in Florida, Echo Lima 96, and operating N4 BRF, the Boca Raton Amateur Radio Association club station on VHF. I'm encouraging many of you to try roving for the first time for the VHF contest. The reason is that rovers, even if they have a small station and go to only two grids, whatever points that you make uh, are multiplied in the other club stations for the club aggregate score or any other fixed stations. If they have, for instance, 100 grid multipliers and you make a 1 point QSO with them, that accounts for 100 points in their log. And rovers can be very valuable for the club aggregate scores. It's important to understand the rules that you can be a fixed station and, in addition, also be a rover during the same contest and enter two logs, one as your fixed station and the other as your call /R as a rover. Only if you have two sets of radios, two sets of antennas. You cannot take your home station, operate it for a while at home, and then put it in the car and operate it as a rover. That's not ethical with the rules here. You do need two sets of radios, different ones for your home station and for the rover. It's pretty simple to get out there with a walkie-talkie and make a few QSOs on 2 meters, especially because you can alert other stations to your whereabouts by telephone or calling into a repeater or messaging them with your smartphone. And most of the big QRO stations will easily locate you and be happy to get an extra QSO on, say, 2 meters and 440. If you're just out there with a walkie-talkie or a two-band mobile rig, certainly, if you have a, uh, a multi-band and uh, uh, sideband or CW rig or digital, all those QSOs can add up nicely. There are many nice rover spots around the concentrations of the big clubs, such as the Pack Rats, and again, the fixed stations with their tall towers and big antennas will find you easily. Certainly, the Pack Rat Club has loaner microwave gear, although it may be a little late before the contest in a few days to get going with this. But consider it for the future. Make a commitment to rove if you're going to do it, only if you're going to do it for a few hours. And my suggestions are to try and do it on Sunday afternoon when the bands are generally quiet and you're not competing with the heavy activity, but mainly the bigger stations or multi-ops will be combing the bands looking for additional QSOs. So maybe you want to avoid the early start Saturday afternoon, but consider Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon, or even Sunday evening when people are trying to clean up. Certainly, go out and check the rover spots before you plan out a rover route. So either use previous experience from other rovers who have been there and give you ideas about what you might expect from various sites. Some of them are in areas where their gates close at sundown and so on. So be apprised of all the potential conditions that you may meet. Certainly, the Pack Rat group is concentrated around Philadelphia, and there are the two easiest grids to operate in are FN20 and Fox Mike 29. But as you get a little more to the fringe, FM19, FN10, FN21, although who knows what the snow-covered mountains in the Poconos will bring. And you might even try Fox Nancy 30 up in the northern coastal part of New Jersey. If you go out ahead of time, um, try to make some QSOs with stations that you prearranged so that you know what to expect when you get there during the contest. Understand what your power capability in the rover will be and what your power source will be. If you use the 12-volt accessory socket, which we used to call the cigarette lighter socket, for power, know what the fusing is for that outlet. Many times it's 10, 15, or 20 amps, and you don't want to blow that fuse and lose your power source. So try and keep your RF power at a low and reasonable amount, somewhere maybe between 5, 10, 20, or maybe even up to 50 watts, because it takes about 100 watts or more to create 50 watts of RF power um, from your current source. Maybe you want to use a LiPo battery, which is independent from the car, or another storage battery. Make sure your connections are secure to it. You want to avoid any potential shorting of a high current source and creating a arc, a spark, or a fire. 2 meters are usually the hub of activity for the VHF contest, and even with a simple mobile rig or a walkie-talkie, um, and setting up a schedule, alerting other stations to where you'll be and when, they will be able to look for you, and you may even create a little pileup on 146.52 direct or 446 triple O. And those are the common calling frequencies, plus 223.5. Now, certainly there's a 6 meter calling frequency, but I rarely use the 6 meter FM. 6 meter digital operations complicates the setup. If you are going to get involved in that, I think it's a little beyond getting started, although many of you are very capable of putting connectors onto the rigs and getting it hooked up to a computer and having an adequate antenna, even a Squalo or omnidirectional antenna for 6 meters is capable and can get you making digital QSOs on the air. Many of us have used the two-element bent beam, and it works quite well. Uh, Use paper logging if you're going out and not planning to make 100 QSOs. It's pretty simple to get started. Have extra pens, papers, because sometimes they drop under the seat just when you're going to log. And make sure you accurately log the other station's call sign and grid locator, and make sure when you sign, it's you sign as your call / rover. So they will mark that in their logs and avoid duplication if they worked you as a fixed station. Um, if you're using directional antennas and want to use something that's pre-made, even 2 elements or 3 elements, it adds a little complication, but if you point it in the area where you're most likely to find good activity, that will help. I always use the Armstrong rotation until I had my rover van, and then we added a rover. We added a rotator. However, that required a 110 volt control box. There are rotators now that all work off 12 volts. The other issue is knowing what the rules are for rovers, because there are multiple rover classes. There's the classical rover, the limited rover, the unlimited rover, and there might be FM or 3-band rovers. Check and see which class you're going to enter. But all of those QSOs are good for the other stations to add to their logs, and you should certainly submit yours also to get some recognition uh, in the postings. Checklists are pretty useful and important. Know what you're going to use for power. Make sure you have all the right cables, spare fuses. Do not replace a blown fuse until you have fixed the reason that it blew. Um, so otherwise, you're just going to put in another fuse and blow that. I color coded everything plus and minus to make sure that you don't use reverse polarity and ruin a radio or blow a power source or fry a cord. Make sure that you have all the appropriate attachments for your radio. Uh, so if you're going to be sideband or FM, you've got the microphone. Uh, if you're going to do CW, you've got your key and the cable that goes into the rig and all the power connectors. The coaxial cables, if you're going to use short ones, I know that the loss in smaller cables like LMR 240 is greater than loss in LMR 400. However, if you're only using 10 or 20 feet of the cable, um, that loss is acceptable in a mobile setup in a rover rig. Um, the easiest thing is using a mag mount antenna, and it's easy to find a 2 meter and 440 mag mount, and using that either on sideband or FM. Um, Make sure you put in your logging uh, equipment, whether it's computerized or paper, and that you've downloaded the proper logging program onto your laptop or iPad. Certainly, a smartphone with apps like Ham Square to know exactly what grid you're in to the 6 digits, a list of club contacts and their phone numbers, or how to how to message them, and what grid locators they are in. A charger for your phone and or walkie if needed. Of course, you'll have all your licenses and registrations just in case you get stopped, so that be prepared because they often, that is, the troopers or police are alerted to people pulled over to the side of the road or in parking lots and so on doing funny stuff. So it won't be unusual if somebody comes by and you'll be prepared. Certainly having the basic tools and duct tape should you need it. It's important to have those available, and certainly to keep yourself hydrated and comfortable so your stomach's not growling. I often take a little bottle in case I need to relieve myself, but also it's important to know where the McDonald's or Burger Kings are along your route in case you need the facilities for a bio break. Before you go out, make sure everything's working in the auto. We've had problems over the year with the van in the past. We lost the transmission on my very first Rove. Probably wiser to check all the fluids before you go out on the road. Um, and one time we had a leaky gas tank. So all those things need to be fixed before you go. I like to have a handout, anything simple about ham radio operations and explaining that this is a test of emergency communications. And you can use that also for anybody official who stops by. Certainly be friendly, always be open, be ready to explain what you're doing, and either continue the radio operation to show them what you're doing, or turn off the rig for a sec and show them what you're up to. When you are moving, you need to have all your equipment firmly secured. If you have a mobile installation with things bolted in, that's great. On the other hand, if this is going to be something temporary, make sure you bungee it, duct tape it, um, because you don't want it moving for sudden start stops or acceleration on the road, and breaking the cabling and so on. Make sure all of that is secure. Never have anything dangling under your feet where the brake and gas pedals are, so that you don't have any trouble maneuvering your vehicle. If you are older like me, recognize your own limits in terms of how much antenna you can maneuver, how long you're going to be out, what the weather and road conditions are, and make sure you don't overdo it. The worst thing is to fall asleep at the wheel, or forget what you're up to, and leaving things out on the road, or forgetting to put up an antenna, take down an antenna. And having a checklist to do this when on site is very important. Just take a minute to make sure that you connect the cables correctly, that you're using your power source in a timely fashion, that you know which direction north is when you're on site. And when you take down, also have a checklist so that you're not leaving tools on the roadway, cables dragging behind you, or masts erected so that you bump into the overheads if you're going to go and gas up or stop in a convenience store. When you get home, you're going to hopefully submit your log in a timely fashion, convert your paper log to an online program like N1MM or W3KM Rover. That's the KM Rover program. Use the post contest mode, and make sure you've recorded the time of your QSOs, the band, the call signs, and where you were in which grid and what grid you received, so that you have all the information to enter in the log properly. Of course, stay safe, stay warm, have fun. And I am so glad to be able to give you a little primer on roving. And I hope that you can use this to do your VHF contesting and help out the club and enjoy yourself on the road. 73s from K1 Delta Sierra. This is Rick in Florida. Thank you very much for listening.